In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your radiator on your Ford Expedition. It's located on the front of the truck. We're going to be disconnecting our AC lines for this job. You're going to need to take your vehicle down to your local repair shop and have the system discharged before you begin. Using an 8mm wrench, we're going to disconnect our negative battery terminal. Remove your terminal, put it aside. Now remove your positive plastic cover and use an 8mm as well to remove this terminal. Once it's loose enough, you may have to widen the terminal using a screwdriver. I'm just going to split this open a little bit using a flathead screwdriver and remove the battery terminal. I'm on the passenger side, just past the frame where one of the cab supports are. And I'm going to turn the petcock to the left to drain the radiator. Make sure you have a drain pan below to catch any coolant. You're going to want to remove this cap, your coolant cap, to allow the fluid to come out a little quicker. Once it's done draining, you're going to tighten the petcock by going to the right. Remove your plastic grommets to remove this big plastic cover. You're going to use a trim tool. You might need a flathead screwdriver to get underneath. Now we're going to remove these. We're going to use a Phillips head screwdriver. A lot of times you got to put pressure on it or it won't come out. Now we're going to remove this. Using a 10mm socket, we're going to take out these two bolts holding in the headlight assembly. Make sure you're not stuck on the grill. Now we're going to disconnect our headlight harness here, push in, pull, and I'm just going to unscrew these bulbs. Set them off to the side. And you can put your headlight off to the side as well. Using a 10mm, we're going to take out these 4 bolts holding on our fuse box. I'm only going to use that for a little while so I don't get jammed up. this up. And I'm going to move it out of the way so I can get to this bolt for the power steering. I'm going to use my 8mm long socket for this bolt here. Put an extension. Set that aside. Using an 8mm socket, we're going to loosen up our hose clamp. Take off our air box. After you remove your air box, you can then put your power steering pump off to the side. You can hold it back with a bungee cord if needed. Using an 8mm socket, we're going to loosen up our hose clamp for our upper hose. After we loosen it, we're going to twist the hose and take it off. Set it aside. Using an 8mm socket, we're going to remove our bolt on our fan shroud. And now you're going to use an 8mm socket to remove the other bolt for the fan shroud. You're going to have to set this fuse box and harness off to the side. So you're going to find any place where it's attached and you're going to remove it. I'm going to use a pry bar and gently push it forward. Careful where you're going with it. You just need it up and out of the way as much as possible. This line needs to be removed also from this bracket, as was already disconnected. All right, I've picked up my harness with a couple of bungee cords, just strapped it away. Now we're underneath the vehicle because we have to remove these two plastic grommets to remove the bottom half of the fan shroud. I'm using a flathead screwdriver to get underneath it, and then I'm going to slide my trim tool underneath the grommet, and we're going to release it. There's a harness attached to the fan shroud on the passenger side that you're going to need a trim tool to remove. Just slide it up in there and take it out. Now we're going to remove our transmission lines from the radiator. I'm going to squeeze the hose clamp using a pair of locking pliers. You don't have to use locking pliers, but I find it easier. Slide that clamp down. You're going to want to get a couple of plugs for these lines so they don't drip all over the place. You can also get a drip pan to remove it. I'm just going to twist it. All right, you're going to pull your line off with a pry bar if needed. I'm going to let it drain from the radiator, but I'm not going to let it drain from the hose. I'm going to plug the radiator side now, just so it's not messy. I'm trying to get it off. So just find something that'll work for that. So now we're going to disconnect our lower radiator hose. You're going to need a pick, and we're going to release this spring clip around the hose. So you're going to go underneath the air box, and you're going to pull out this spring clip. We're going to take off the bottom hose. I'm going to use a pry bar to do that. I'm going to slide one down. You're going to get behind that lip and push it off. You need a drip pan below if there's any residual coolant in the system. There we go. Now we're going to take off our upper transmission line. We're going to squeeze the clamp. And put it down there. Now we're going to pry it off. I do have a plug ready to put in the line so we don't lose any fluid. Make sure you have a drip pan below just in case. Using a 13mm socket, I'm going to take out the two top bolts for the radiator. If you have to move your battery terminal, go ahead. Now we're going to remove the fan shroud. For that, we're going to go underneath and unsnap the bottom piece so that we can pull the fan shroud out. So up here, there's a keyhole where when you flip this up, like this, it lines up. But you got to make sure it's all the way up, and then you're going to take a pry bar and pop this out. But it won't pop out unless you have that in the keyhole. Alright, so just make sure it's in the keyhole, pry it out, and the other side should be easier to take out. Now that you've undone both sides, you're going to bring it down. Using an 8mm socket, I'm going to take out this bolt just to remove this extra box on the side of the shroud. One less thing to worry about as we take the shroud out. Now we can just move that over. And maneuver our way out of here. We may have to move some things. Again, I have bungee cords holding things up, so it makes it a little easier. Be really careful as you take it out, and just be mindful about all the different harnesses and everything. You don't want to be bending anything too much, so take your time and be patient. Using a 13mm socket, we're going to take off our lines. After you remove it, you can set your line below the stud for both. Using a 10mm, we're going to remove our horns. Now we're going to remove this. There's 3 grommets holding it in. One here, here, and up here. I'm using a trim tool. remove the one on the other side as well. We're going to remove this transmission line from the radiator. I'm going to use a pair of locking pliers to squeeze the clamp and pull it off. Scoot that hose clamp down. Now you're going to crack it loose using a pair of pliers, and you can pull it off. I would recommend plugging the line. Now we're going to pry up the radiator and condenser together. Using a pry bar, you're going to put it somewhere over here and lift up on it and pull it out. Do the same on the other side. Remove this power steering line. I'm going to use some locking pliers to squeeze that clamp and remove the line. And remove the line. I'm also going to remove the other line. Release the hose clamp and push the line off. Make sure you have a plug ready. And plug that as well. And set it aside. We're going to pick up on this side and push it forward. Get your battery terminal out of the way if needed. And you're going to do the same on the other side. Pick it up. And push it forward. You should have it forward enough that we can separate the condenser from the radiator. All right, so now we're separated out. I'll let that condenser just rest. All right, now we're going to take our radiator out. Make sure you get everything out of the way. You've got to move your harness out of the way and various other things at the bottom here. Make sure that the sensor wire is out of the way when you remove this side of the radiator from this side. And now we're going to go to the other side and pick it up over here. You may get some excess coolant coming out. Make sure you put your AC line below. It does have some flexibility to it, so you may have to move that out of the way. Now that we have all that disconnected, we're going to lift up this radiator and pull it out. Just make sure that your condenser is out of the way. Get the harness underneath that lower radiator hose outlet. just go back and forth and move something out of the way as you go. And just pull it out. We're going to install our lines into the condenser. We have our PAG oil on our O-ring. Push it in. Do the one on the top as well. You may have to move the condenser around a little bit in order for things to line up. You can get your nut started. You're going to tighten down your lines, make sure that O-ring goes in. We're going to be torquing these to 11 foot-pounds. And also on the bottom. Now you can line your condenser up where it needs to live. And we're going to install our power steering lines. We're going to install our lower power steering line and not the top one until after the radiator is put in. Squeeze your hose clamp and push it onto the line. You will have liquid coming out, power steering fluid. Put your hose clamp in place. And you can push it down where it lives and just clean up any mess you may have. I did put a plug on the top line so that the power steering fluid wouldn't come up and out. Remove your grommets from the old radiator. Put the grommet on your new radiator. Do the same on the other side. Now we're going to install our radiator. To do that, we're going to gently put it in and then guide it down. It was not easy getting out, so it's not going to be that easy getting in. So just move things out of the way as you lower it. Just continue to move things out of your way. You're going to have to move the harness in and out and past the bracket. Make sure you line up the radiator with the alignment holes that go through with the grommets and have it sit down in there. So after you drop the radiator in, you're going to pick up the condenser and put it in place on the back of the radiator. There are 4 clips that it lines up with. Once you're in, you're going to push it down and lock it in. Line up the pegs on either side of the radiator into the holes where the bracket is. You might have to go by feel since it's really hard to see. And you're just going to feel down about midway down to make sure those pegs are lined up. There should be grommets and pegs. You'll know when it sits in there because it won't move. Make sure your harnesses are not wrapped up in there either, because you won't be able to get it where it belongs after. Now that we have our radiator installed or in place, we're going to put our power steering line on the top here on. So I'm going to take this plug off. There will be some fluid that comes out, so put a drip pan below. And also on the top here, there will be some fluid that comes out. Lower the line in place. You're going to have to get it past the air box. Squeeze that hose clamp and bring it up where it belongs. Bring your hose clamp up. Make sure it's in the same place it was before. Make sure the line isn't twisted too much and it hooks onto where it belongs on the fan shroud. This looks good to me. I'll let that free for now. Clean the area. Alright, let's install our transmission lines. This one goes on the bottom. Take out the plug, slide it on, and squeeze the clamp and bring it up to the fitting. Bring it up to where the line is. And bring it right up where it used to be and let it go. Now we're going to do the top one. Clamp down on the clamp with some pliers. Take your plug off if it's still there. And slide the hose onto the line in the radiator. Bring that clamp down where it was on the hose and release. Install your horn, rest it on the bracket. Get your bolt started by hand. And snug it up. Now we're going to put our air deflectors back. To do so, you're just going to slide it in and push the retaining pins in. There's a hole here that you're going to put this bottom grommet in. And there's a hole right behind this horn. And just push it in that hole as well. Do the same on the other side. Now we're going to install our fan shroud. To do that, you got to bend back your power steering line. Just don't bend it where the metal is, bend it where the hose is. And get it past it. You gotta move your fuse box back and push the shroud down. Now we're going to put our bolts in to hold in the radiator. Just hand start them. reach down and put your radiator hose on the outlet. And there's a crease or a slot that you got to match up the hose with the outlet, and then this clip is going to go where that is. So you're going to push this on. All right, so now that that's lined up, you're going to reach down and slide your clip into place. The opened side, make sure you put the clip in on the driver's side and then push it in. It should click in, and there shouldn't be anything sticking out. Now we're going to pick up our harness, up and over. And get it ready to install. Put our power steering line back on its holder. Just make sure everything's lined up on this side. You have a bracket that holds your harness to the shroud. You can go ahead and get that bolt started. Get the other bolt started as well. So now we have our bracket with our bolt to hold that harness in. Just snug these up about wrist tight. You don't want to over tighten. And do the same on the other side. At this point, we're going to put our positive battery terminal back on, just to get it out of the way, so we can put our upper radiator hose on. Again, about wrist tight, make sure it doesn't move, and put your rubber cover back on. Make sure your harness is in this bracket. It is bendable, so if you bent it to get the harness out, bend it back. Make sure your harness is in the bracket, and if you need to bend it back, do so. Now let's put our coolant hose on. Just position your hose clamp the way it was. Now we're going to slide this in. Make sure your vacuum line is attached here. This goes down like this and slides into a little slot in the fan shroud. You'll see it if you look down next to the battery. Make sure these wires are above this. And your bolt should look just like the ones that held the shroud to the radiator. Just one bolt. Hand tighten. Now we're going to put our 4 bolts here. Now we're going to put these bolts in here. So line it up. You want to get those started. Unbungee your power steering reservoir and pick up your harness. You're going to slide this bit into this little slot in the shroud. Once that's in, you're going to move your harness up and over. So just move that harness out of the way and tighten that bolt down. Again, wrist tight is fine. You just want to hold it there. Now we're going to tighten down these bolts. Make sure all of them are started first before tightening them down. Make sure you have all your push pins where they belong. This one goes right above the radiator hose. And make sure your harnesses are not in anything's way. Make sure all your connectors are connected. And now we're going to put our upper radiator hose on. I bent ours way out of the way, so now we're going to unbend it and slide it on. Tighten it up. Make sure it's snug and it doesn't move. And now we're going to go underneath and put our lower shroud back on. Now we're going to put a lower shroud on. To do that, you're going to feed it up through above these lines, the transmission lines, and line it up. Get it past that fan, and then you're going to slide it into the little keyholes. Once you get it locked in, you're going to do the other side. And then you're going to push it forward and let it lower down. Now we're going to put our fasteners in place, little push pins. Make sure you hold this down as you push it in. And now we're going to put our line back in its bracket up here. And whatever else got loose or unfastened, put back. So now we're going to attach our light bulbs inside our headlight assembly and plug in our headlight. Just make sure your cords are where they belong. And you just put them in and twist them to lock them in. Those little notches that you got to line up. And then you're going to plug in your headlight. Make sure it's in there good. Now we're going to line up our assembly into the holes. And push. Now we're going to put our bolts in. Make sure that this is pushed in all the way so this tab is poking up. Just get your bolts started on both sides and snug them down. Now we're going to put our plastic cover on for the final step before filling up our fluids. So line up your holes and get them started in a couple of spots before pushing it all the way in. So just snap them into place. Now we can put the ones with our center grommet. I'm going to do the bottom part first. And now we can put the screw part in. All right, so we can put our air box back. Once you get that side on, you can tighten it down. Now Now we're going to fill our system up with coolant. Use whatever the manufacturer recommends. You can usually see it on the cap, what it'll tell you to use, or in the manual. You're going to do this till it's filled to the max. Once it's to the max, you're going to start your vehicle. You're going to let it run until it gets hot. The thermostat will open. It'll suck in the coolant that's in this, and then you're going to have to top it off. So put your heat on when the car's running and let it run for a while. Once you see the coolant level go down, you're going to fill it up to max. Make sure you have heat. Top it off. Take the funnel out. Put your cap back on. Take it for a road test. You're going to remove your funnel if you used one, and put your cap back on. Make sure you also check your power steering fluid. Make sure it's at the max line. And also your transmission fluid. Make sure that's topped off in case you lost any. If you didn't lose any transmission fluid, you should be all set. Make sure it's at the max, and just put your cap back on. Make sure you start your vehicle. If the power steering is making any sort of noise, it probably has air in the system. So you're going to let it run for a while and bleed the air out. If that doesn't work, and you're going to turn the wheel back and forth slowly, that should get the rest of the air out of the system. And then you can put your vehicle back in the ground, and it should be all set. You're going to want to service your AC at this point, so go down to your local shop and have them service it. Make sure that it checks for leaks, and make sure your AC is running cold. Put your negative battery terminal on, push down, and tighten it up. Make sure it's tight. Give it a wiggle, see if it moves. If it doesn't, you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.